Has Anthony Gordon really done enough to take Marcus Rashford's place? Or was the 2026 World Cup nothing more than a spectacular purple patch after his stunning performances? And that unforgettable goal against Argentina, many believe England have finally found their first-choice left winger for the next generation. Others aren't convinced. They argue Marcus Rashford remains the more complete player and that Gordon has simply caught fire at the right moment. So where does the truth really lie? And how did a boy once released by Liverpool grow into the player an entire nation now looks to with hope? This is the full story of Anthony Gordon. And yes, the player we mentioned at the beginning of this story is none other than Anthony Gordon. His full name is Anthony Michael Gordon, born on the 24th of February 2001 in Liverpool, the world-famous port city that gave us the Beatles, and one of the few places on earth where two of English football's most iconic clubs, Liverpool FC and Everton FC, have shared the same city for generations. But behind the city's rich football heritage, Anthony Gordon's childhood was anything but glamorous. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood where life was never easy. His father, Keith Gordon, his mother, Nadine Gordon. Neither of them was famous, neither came from privilege. They were simply hard-working parents who did everything they could to support their son's dream of becoming a professional footballer. And it was there, in that modest home, in a city where football is woven into everyday life, that a young Anthony Gordon took his very first steps toward a dream that millions of children share. One day becoming a professional footballer. Like so many boys growing up in Liverpool, Anthony Gordon's first football dream was tied to the club that bore the city's name. His journey began in the academy of Liverpool Football Club. But at the age of 11, that dream came crashing down. Liverpool decided to release him. The reason sounded simple. Yet for a young boy chasing a dream, it was devastating. The coaches believed Gordon was simply too small and too slight compared to other players his age. For many children, that would have been the end. For Gordon, it was only the closing of one door before another opened. In 2012, he joined the academy of Everton FC, Liverpool's other great football club, just a stone's throw from the Kirkdale neighborhood where he grew up. At Goodison Park, Gordon wasted little time proving what Liverpool had failed to see. He climbed through every level of the academy, from the youth teams to the under-18s, then the under-23s, before earning the first professional contract of his career. Then came a moment he would never forget. December 2017. At just 16 years old, Anthony Gordon made his professional debut in the UEFA Europa League. A milestone every young footballer dreams of, especially one who had been told only a few years earlier that he simply wasn't big enough. But it wasn't until the 2021-22 season that Gordon truly announced himself. Everton were fighting for survival. One of England's biggest clubs was staring at the very real possibility of relegation. And amid the chaos, Gordon emerged as one of the team's brightest lights. He made 35 Premier League appearances, scored 4 goals, and played a crucial role in keeping Everton in the top flight. Looking back, his numbers at Everton may not seem extraordinary. 65 appearances, 7 Premier League goals. But they tell only part of the story. Because Anthony Gordon's greatest achievement wasn't measured in goals. It was the journey itself. From an 11-year-old boy rejected by Liverpool for being too small, to one of the brightest young talents in English football. And that was only the beginning. January 2023. Anthony Gordon made the toughest decision of his career. He left Everton, the club that had raised him since he was 11 years old, the club that had given him his first chance in professional football. After weeks of negotiations, Gordon completed a move to Newcastle United in a deal worth around £40 million, potentially rising to £45 million with add-ons. Many believed Newcastle had overpaid for a player who had produced only a handful of promising seasons. And Gordon knew it himself this would be the biggest test of his career. At first, adapting wasn't easy. Eddie Howe's Newcastle demanded relentless intensity, constant pressing, endless running, a level of physical commitment that few new signings could master overnight. But little by little, the qualities Gordon had always possessed, his pace, his engine, and his relentless pressing instincts, allowed him to do more than simply adapt. He became indispensable. Over the next 3 years at St. James's Park, Gordon established himself as one of the finest wingers in English football. But it was the 2025-26 season that truly changed everything. The finest campaign of his Newcastle career, he became a key figure in both the Premier League and the UEFA Champions League. Yet, it was on Europe's biggest club stage where Gordon truly exploded. He scored 10 Champions League goals, surpassing the legendary Alan Shearer's long-standing club record to become Newcastle United's all-time leading goalscorer in the competition. And then came the night that Newcastle supporters will never forget. Away to Carabao, Gordon produced the performance of his life. 4 goals, one unforgettable night, a stunning poker that inspired a 6-1 victory. The biggest away win in Newcastle's European history. It was the night Shearer's record finally fell. The night Anthony Gordon announced himself among the Champions League's elite. Naturally a left winger, Gordon is equally dangerous when drifting inside, where his finishing becomes even more lethal. His greatest strengths lie in his explosive dribbling, devastating diagonal runs into central areas, relentless pressing, intelligent movement off the ball, and tireless defensive work. The complete modern winger, a player who contributes just as much without the ball as he does with it. Those performances didn't go unnoticed. Europe's biggest clubs came calling. Then, in May 2026, Gordon completed another career-defining move. He joined FC Barcelona in a deal worth around £69.3 million, despite serious interest from Bayern Munich. He signed a long-term contract with the Catalan giants on the most lucrative terms of his career. But perhaps the biggest surprise came at his unveiling. When Gordon stepped in front of the media, he answered the first questions in fluent Spanish. Smiling, he admitted that wearing the Barcelona shirt had been a childhood dream long before it became reality. And while his club career continued to reach new heights, his performances at Newcastle had also secured him a permanent place in England's national team. By the time the 2026 FIFA World Cup arrived, Anthony Gordon was no longer just another exciting Premier League winger. He had become one of the key figures in England's pursuit of football's greatest prize, World Cup 2026. It was the tournament that transformed Anthony Gordon from one of the Premier League's brightest wingers into a name the entire football world couldn't stop talking about. Under Thomas Tuchel, Gordon wasn't simply deployed out wide. He became England's most devastating weapon in transition. Blistering pace, relentless energy, an endless appetite for pressing, and explosive runs that tore defensive lines apart. Those qualities made him one of the standout performers behind England's march to the World Cup semi-finals. His impact was immediate. In the round of 32, Gordon produced 2 assists to inspire England past DR Congo. Then came the quarter-finals. Another decisive assist helped the Three Lions edge Norway 2-1 and book their place among the final 4. But the moment everyone remembers came against Argentina, the reigning world champions. The clock showed the 55th minute. Morgan Rogers whipped a low cross in from the right. Gordon exploded into the box, darted across Nahuel Molina, and swept the ball beyond Emiliano Martinez. England erupted. For one unforgettable moment, an entire nation believed they were finally on their way back to a World Cup final. Then football reminded everyone how cruel it can be. Argentina fought back. 2 late goals shattered England's dream just moments before the finish line. Gordon collapsed onto the turf, one of the most heartbreaking images of his career. But that defeat could never erase what he had achieved. Across the tournament, pundits and analysts widely regarded Anthony Gordon as one of England's standout performers. They praised his explosive pace, his intelligent off-the-ball movement, his relentless high pressing, and the versatility that allowed him to excel across the entire front line. Many believe World Cup 2026 was only the beginning, that Gordon has everything it takes to become a cornerstone for both Barcelona and England for years to come. After the semi-final, Gordon made no attempt to hide his disappointment. He admitted the defeat would stay with him for a long time. But amid the heartbreak, he also paid a heartfelt tribute to Lionel Messi. Facing him in person, Gordon said, made him realize that the Argentine legend was even greater than he had ever imagined from watching on television. Then he delivered a line that resonated deeply with Barcelona supporters around the world. I've watched Leo Messi make the difference for Barcelona for years. Today, I realized he's even better than I ever imagined. I'm devastated we've been knocked out, but at least I know the World Cup will be won by someone who loves Barcelona with all his heart. From the boy Liverpool let go, to the teenager who had to prove himself at Everton, then to the winger who exploded at Newcastle and emerged as one of England's brightest hopes. Every step of Anthony Gordon's journey has been built on resilience far more than reputation. The 2026 World Cup semi-final may not have delivered the ending England had dreamed of. But in football, not every defeat is the end of the story. Sometimes it's simply the chapter that shapes everything that comes next. Perhaps years from now, people won't remember Anthony Gordon for the goal he scored against Argentina. They'll remember him for something far greater, for the way he turned rejection into fuel, doubt into belief, and setbacks into the driving force behind every step forward. Because that's what defines careers. Not the moments when everything goes right, but the moments when giving up would have been easier. If you enjoy football stories that go beyond the scoreline, stories about the people behind the headlines, then subscribe and join us for the next journey. Because the next player you think you already know might have a story that changes the way you see them forever.